Welcome back to AIM on Air. I am Kevin Craine, and I'm so pleased to have you with us today. And pleased to welcome back Tori Miller Liu to the program. Tori, of course, is the president and CEO of AIM International. Tori, welcome aboard. Thank you for being with us today. Now, I know the AIM 23 conference was just held a couple of 3 weeks ago or so in New Orleans. How was AIM 23 for you?
It was a blast. It was great. We had folks from 28 different countries, almost 600 attendees, and the energy was felt in every single room. I think we just people were grateful to be back in person,
Right.
and grateful to be back in this really exciting community. And there's so much going on in the industry with artificial intelligence and with just general changes in the space that I think that also added to the level of excitement.
I know there are a lot of people excited to come back to AIM, and a lot of folks were waiting for the world to change, and it's happened. You mentioned AI, and of course, it's on them. It's on everyone's mind. AI and the impact of tools like generative AI. What do you feel will be the impact of AI and generative AI on information management in general?
The whole podcast episode on its own, but
Well, we could
I
spend an
do
hour
think,
talking about that, but I know it was a big hot topic of discussion. What are your impressions?
yeah, and the interesting thing about it, and I do think for me that this was one of the takeaways from the event. AI development has been going on for 2 decades. I mean, it's not new. I think what's new is certainly the neural networks and the large language models and the advancements around generative AI. And what's especially new is how that's affected consumers. I mean, the whole thing went viral, right? And so now I feel like that's what every single executive's asking about. How can our company leverage AI? What will this change? How will it improve efficiencies, et cetera, et cetera? The great news is information management professionals are very well positioned to help guide those conversations because they've been engaging with automation and RPA for years and AI for years, right? So I think the application of the technology is not new. What's very new is the fervor around it, um, and the excitement around it. Uh, so the other reason that I do believe that AIM and our information professionals in this community are well positioned to help with AI is we can help with the governance around AI. We can help talk about the input and the output of AI and the workflows that are triggered by that output, right? So while I have heard that artificial intelligence tools can help improve quality of information and data, um, you will always need human intervention for that, right? You'll always need to have someone who is providing supervised learning, training, governance for these AI applications, specifically the data, to make sure that the output is ethical, that the input
Yeah.
is high quality enough that you are going to get the needed output. So that's where I think we will have a voice. And I do think the other point that I will make about AI is, uh, at least in talking to executives, I feel like there's sort of a misunderstanding around what AI technology is going to look like in the future, as if people talk about it as if it's going to be sort of a separate application, a separate thing that you will go to. I think we saw really clearly at the conference that AI is going to become deeply integrated and pervasive through existing ecosystems and existing platforms. Microsoft Copilot's a great example of that. When that becomes widely available to the public, soon, people will see that it becomes a deeply integrated piece of your day-to-day work life. It's not you making a deliberate decision to go to a generative AI application that's separate from your digital workspace. It is enmeshed in your digital workspace. And for me, that's kind of a big fundamental shift.
Well, a lot of people were talking about AI, but a lot of people were talking about a lot of other things also at AIM 23. What were some of the other standout sessions or standout topics that you observed and were involved in?
What I was really interested in seeing is, um, despite all the excitement about AI, we still had a healthy balance with fundamentals around information management. That didn't get completely blown out of the water by AI.
Mm.
There's still some really important issues. So I've heard a lot of people talking about what are the top skills we need to build resiliency and sustainability as professionals in the age of artificial intelligence. So, like, one of our top sessions was one about the top skills for IM pros in this new era. Um, there were also, I heard from vendors that people are still getting a lot of questions about, how do I do migrations? What do I need to know about data privacy? How can I get better at taxonomy? So we, those are still really critical questions for organizations to think about and to answer. Governance is going to go hand in hand with AI and any new tech trends that are coming out, and that shouldn't be forgotten, you know.
Mm. Top skills, I think that's an important topic, especially as we start looking to engage with younger professionals coming into the industry. And I know that you're a big advocate and supporter of engaging with younger tech professionals and college students, indeed, to enlist awareness, support, and involvement in AIM. How do you see the demographic of the association changing?
Yeah, that was one of the most interesting findings from our industry watch report was around the age demographic of our members. And what was sort of startling for me to see is we had, I think, about 44 of the respondents to that survey are 45 years and older. And that's pretty telling. And you look around AIM events, and we do have an aging demographic. And so I'm really passionate, and so is our board of directors, about figuring out how we attract the next generation of leaders in information management. So the way we did that at the event was we started a student delegation program where we invited local universities to send a delegation of students that were able to attend the entire event and became a part of the event themselves. It wasn't sort of a separate thing. They attended sessions, they attended all the parties, the happy hours, and it gave them a really nice chance to talk with vendors, talk with other attendees, and learn about this field. The other thing that the students did such a great job at was a next gen panel that Jason Cassidy, who's a board member and the CEO of Shiny Docs, moderated. And there were some really interesting questions and conversations that came out as a result of that about what is our next generation leaders looking for in future employers, and vice versa. What do we as information management professionals and organizations want from the next gen employees? The thing that I still can't quite get over is one of the questions that they were asked was about where they prefer to work. Do you prefer to work remotely, or do you prefer to work in person? And 2 out of 3 of these next gen panelists said that they would actually prefer to work in person, which I found, yeah, right. It was the complete opposite of what I thought. So for me, it was a good reminder that we have to check our assumptions. All these assumptions that we have about generations are just pure generalizations, and I think often wrong. You've got to personalize it based on the individual experience, and it's important to talk about the trends and what we see going on. But at the end of the day, like, a person's a person, and you have to cater to their individual needs as an employee.
You mentioned the need to check our assumptions. I think that's really important. And one of the important things that happens when we do the survey and research for the Industry Watch each year, and you mentioned the Industry Watch, it was just published, the new 2023 AIM Industry Watch report. A lot of folks are calling it the best report in several years from AIM. Were there any other findings in the research that stood out or surprised you?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I found really interesting was that respondents recognized that we are having information sprawl. So AIM's been talking about information chaos for years, right? The volume and velocity of all this information is creating chaos. The word sprawl kept jumping out at me when I was reading the survey results, because what's happened during the pandemic is an expansion of technology stacks around information management. So we have all these new systems that are collecting or cataloging and disseminating information, and it's made the responsibilities of an information management professional that much more complicated. It's sprawl, and I keep thinking of like suburban sprawl almost, right? Like how much more complicated is it to manage a wider square footage or square kilometer of space, right? As this space gets bigger and bigger. So that I found really interesting, that it's actually it's sort of like this weird dichotomy between respondents saying that technology is helping them solve information management problems, but it's also conversely making their information problems more complex, more significant, because you have this vast sprawl of technology stacks. So that really jumped out at me. And then one thing that I thought was interesting, that Dave Jones, who is a former AIM chair and with Instinctive Solutions, he was the primary author for the report, along with our staff. And he noticed that a lot of respondents felt like their organizations have reached a level of, I don't know if I would even call it maturity around digital transformation, but they've sort of plateaued. There doesn't seem to be additional investment in digital transformation. And I think that's worth probably AIM and others exploring a little bit more deeply, because it makes me wonder, did the pandemic just force digital transformation to reach a new state of maturity, and now organizations are almost exhausted with it, and will we see a revival of it, or is this kind of it? Like, have we reached it? Because there's still paper out there. I mean, there's still a need for digitization. Right. I think there are still subpar user experiences that would really benefit from digital transformation efforts. So I'm curious to see where that goes next year, when I'm assuming we'll ask the same question, and I'll be interested to see if the investment around that and the attention around digital transformation has changed.
I think that's spot on, Tori. That's mirroring also what I hear from other interviews and research that I've been doing. One guest recently called it a post-digital transformation age. In other words, mirroring kind of what you said, COVID really spurred on a lot of digital transformation, a lot of investment and effort, and now organizations sort of coasting in a sense, and wondering what's next, even though there is still a great opportunity for transformation or digitization. A great deal of paper still out there. But do you agree with that? Do you think we are in a post-digital transformation age?
I'm not sure. And I feel like the answer has to be interlinked with what's happening with AI. Because I have to think that AI, it's not just going to be about finding AI applications that improve operational efficiencies, like accounts payable workflows or what have you.
Right.
I do think that there's really great use cases around using AI for chatbots, using AI to aid customers in their transactions too. So to me, that's deeply intertwined with what the original purpose of digital transformation was. It was never, in my mind, digital transformation was never about pure digitization and taking paper to a digital state. It really was about, how do we make excellent customer experiences? How do we create seamless, pain-free flows and journeys for customers? And I think AI can be part of that. So I don't know. Maybe it's the post-digital transformation / AI era, or maybe it's the end of the digital transformation era and the beginning of a new AI-driven era. I wonder if we'll even be saying the words digital transformation 5 years from now.
We may not. It may just be part of the way things are. And I think you're spot on. Again, it was last year in the 2022 AIM report that it was clear that folks were really focusing on that customer experience as the end game, the impact to that customer experience. It's not about the technology or about getting rid of the paper. It's really about affecting the ultimately customer experience, which spills over into things like profit and market share and market perception.
Yeah.
And so I think that is a corner that we're definitely turning. It's not just about governance. It's about using that governance of information in ways that really impact the performance of the organization. It's sort of a broader paradigm, perhaps.
Along
But
those lines, do you think
I don't want
we're...
to linger
Oh,
too
sorry.
long. I do want to talk about a couple other things, but before we move on from the AIM 23 conference, are you hopeful in the recovery for in-person conferences now?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do think that if you look at research about the event planning and event management space, the format and the way events look has changed. And I don't know if we're going to ever go back to exactly what events looked like pre-pandemic, but
Hmm.
there is a clamoring for people, especially in the AIM community, to be back together in person in whatever form or shape that takes. So yeah,
Right.
I think we're back, just not what it was before. We're never going to get back to exactly what things were 10 years ago, and maybe that's a good thing.
Already people are looking forward to next year in San Antonio. Is that correct?
Yeah, we'll be in San Antonio, Texas, April 3rd through 5th in 2024. And San Antonio, by the way, is one of my favorite conference cities. It's beautiful.
It is a
Right up there
great
with New
city.
Orleans, actually.
Right, right. It is a great city for that. All right, very good. Now, the AIM European Forum is coming up here on June 20th. You'll be doing the keynote. Give us a little sneak peek of what your keynote will be about.
Yeah, so we're actually going to do a repeat performance of information management in the age of AI related to the Industry Watch report. So the state of information intelligence. So Dave Jones is going to be joining me again. Ron Cameron, our chairman, is also going to be joining me, and we'll be doing a panel discussion about what are the findings from this report? What does it mean? And I think what's interesting is, the report came out a few weeks ago. We'll have the benefit of time, and we can kind of think about what were the reflections from both the conference, but also what have we seen in the space around AI, especially AI regulations, that's like wildfire right now. So I
Right.
think we have a lot more um, content and context to provide in London towards the end of June.
All right. Tell us about AIM itself in the next few months. Tell us about some of the upcoming activities and efforts at AIM this year. Will there be any changes or enhancements in some of the programs that we know and love, like the CIP and training or what have you, which we are familiar with? Tell us more.
Oh, great question. So you'll probably see a few small changes, but we are in the midst of strategic planning right now. So I do firmly believe in mission, vision, and strategy directing the activities of an organization. So the board of directors will finish that new strategic plan by the end of the year. So I think you're likely to see some more dramatic changes next year. But some of the interesting things to look forward to this year are we are in the process of updating the CIP. So a new update of that is going to come out later this year. We're very excited about that. We have a really great M365 series coming out that's going to be kicking off next month, actually. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be just a fantastic series for anyone who's interested in M365. And then later this year in October, we are partnering with the AIM Florida chapter to produce a strategy summit and chapter showcase. So the Florida chapter is going to be bringing in some really interesting solution providers to share some of their new technology with that community. And then we're also bringing in the Leadership Council and the Board of Directors to partner with the Florida chapter and host a strategy summit where we're going to be finalizing the strategic plan and also ideating for the future and figuring out collectively as a group and a community, what does this association and what does this industry look like going forward? So I'm excited. To me, that's sort of like the capstone event for the year. We've been talking all year about what are the plausible futures for this industry, what is the vision for this industry, and October is going to be, the cherry on the ice cream sundae.
Nice, nice. You mentioned the Florida chapter. Is there a move afoot to revitalize local AIM chapters? And if so, how can people get involved?
Oh, great. Another great question. I would say there is a move to revitalize regional communities. I don't know if they'll look exactly like chapters. This is probably the theme for the podcast. Um, we aren't going to be able to go exactly back to what things looked like 10 or 20 years ago for AIM or for this industry. So I don't know if what we need is chapters that are own legal entities. What we really need is regional communities and ways for people to connect one-on-one with other information management professionals and vendors and solution providers in this space. So we are actively talking to a number of folks around the country and around the world who are interested in restarting chapters, but I'm going to put chapters in air quotes because I don't know exactly what that looks like,
Okay.
but I'm a former CIO, and I know I used to manage a team of business analysts. So what I'm focused on is what are the requirements and what are the needs here, as opposed to what the solution is. And the solution is TBD.
Looking at the problem first before the solution. What a quaint idea.
Right? Surprise.
All right. That is Tori Miller Liu, President and CEO of AIM International. Tori, thank you so much for being our guest today on AIM on Air. I hope you'll come back and visit us again here in a couple of months and give us another update.
Will do. Thanks, Kevin.